Well, from a story that is interesting, as exciting as that, to Senate hearings. Few things are more boring than Senate hearings. Unless you combine Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri, a far-left law professor, and a new term in America. And we quote the term for you because you're going to hear it a lot. People with a capacity for pregnancies. Combine those three, and it is must-see TV.
Professor Bridges, you said several times, you've used a phrase, I want to make sure I understand what you mean by it. You've referred to people with a capacity for pregnancy. Would that be women?
Many women, cis women, have the capacity for pregnancy. Many cis women do not have the capacity for pregnancy. There are also trans men who are capable of pregnancy, as well as non-binary people who are capable of pregnancy.
So this isn't really a women's rights issue.
We can recognize that this impacts women while also recognizing that it impacts other groups. Those things are not mutually exclusive, Senator Hawley.
Oh, so your view is that the core of this right then is about what?
So I want to recognize that your line of questioning is transphobic, and it opens up trans people to violence by not recognizing that.
Wow, you're saying that I'm opening up people to violence by asking whether or not women are the folks who can have pregnancies?
So I want to note that 1 out of 5 transgender persons have attempted suicide. So I think it's important
because of my line of questioning? So we can't talk about it?
Because denying that trans people exist and pretending not to know that they exist
I'm
is
denying that
dangerous.
trans people exist by asking you if you're talking about women having pregnancies?
Do you believe that men can get pregnant?
No, I don't think women can get
So you are
pregnant.
denying that trans people exist?
And that leads to violence? Is this how you run your classroom? Are students allowed to question you?
Absolutely.
Or are they also treated like this, where
No,
they're told that they're opening up people to violence?
We have a good time in my class. You should join.
Oh, I bet.
You might learn a lot.
Wow, I would learn a lot. I've learned a lot just in this exchange.
Absolutely.
Extraordinary.
As did we all. We promised, though, that was not a joke or a Saturday Night Live skit. It actually happened today in Washington, in the United States Senate. If you're wondering, it was actually a Democratic hearing, post-Roe America, and a Democratic called witness. Chris Stirewalt's here, NewsNation politics editor and contributor at The Dispatch. What do we take away from this?
Well, it was a very pointless hearing. It was a very pointless exchange. It was for no normal people. This hearing was not for any normal people. That exchange was not for any normal people. It was pandering to extremes. It is why Congress stinks at its job. You have encapsulated in one moment all of the stink, all of what's wrong with Congress in one moment, where a hearing that serves no purpose, right? Because there's not going to be legislation and there's no new information being offered. It's just a billboard, right? Democrats wanted to say and pander to their own base. Hey, look, we have these really extreme lawmakers saying, we have these really extreme legal professionals talking about things in the most extreme way possible. And then you have one of the most extreme Republican senators getting into a fight with this woman for the sake of what? Right? For the sake of nothing, for the sake of attention. And it's why America's fed up with Congress. It's why Congress stinks at its job.
You talk about their base for Democrats. In a way, it is their base, but only if you think about it, 10% of Americans wish that President Biden was more progressive. If abortion is an issue that is going to affect swing voters in places like Georgia and Pennsylvania and Ohio and keep swing voting women as on the Democratic side, does stuff like this turn them off to mainstream Democratic ideals? Are the Democrats allowing sort of their best issue to be hijacked?
Yes, and the world will little note nor long remember the stupidity of hearings like this that happen over and over again. And it's busy work for Congress, and it's so that the Democratic members on this panel can say to that, well, we held hearings, we certainly are doing this, we're active. No legislation is going to be passed. And there's no oversight provision here. So this is in no way Congress's job to be an advertisement or a billboard. Whether the message is effective or not, I agree with you. It certainly isn't, right? This is not how you want to be on brand. You don't want to talk about, this is a women's issue and in a way to appeal to female voters. So even as a messaging gambit, certainly for the midterms, it's bubkiss. But it's worse than that because it's a dereliction of their duty. And Hawley is derelict, and this is just a mess. and it's how Congress fails at its work at a time when, I will point out, there are very serious matters facing the United States. But this will not bring down any inflation. This will not send any missiles to Ukraine. This will not deal with China. This will not deal with the border. This will not deal with crime. This won't even deal with abortion. It's just jabberwocky that these people do in the hopes that they will get our attention for being so crazy or so weird that we have to dial in.
Well, and we do, because it's compelling and interesting television. You say little note nor long remember, and I rarely like to argue with you because you're smarter than me, but I'm going to put this tweet up from Ayanna Pressley, one of the more liberal members of the House, not the Senate. It's the excellence, knowledge, and the truth-telling by the professor for me. Her testimony is a masterclass. This is a must-watch. Also on Twitter, which is not real life, Republicans are saying this is a must-watch. Little note nor long remember. I can just see this, though, in an ad for Josh Hawley's presidential campaign come Iowa, I don't know, next year.
I'm sure that was on his mind, I wouldn't doubt that was on his mind. I wouldn't doubt that every morning when Josh Hawley wakes up and draws his first breath, he thinks of it as his first presidential ad. You know the old joke in Washington, what does every member of the United States Senate see in the morning when they look in the mirror? The next president of the United States of America. Hawley is a particularly thirsty, particularly ambitious member. So all of that may be true. But again, I want to point out, none of this is for normal people. This is whether you're on the Josh Hawley side or the Ayanna Pressley side, this neglects the work of this Congress in moments like this, neglects 70% of the country or so who are just interested in having productive work done by a Congress that cares about its constituents, not pandering to Twitter trolls and weirdos. And we have a Congress that is facing the extremes instead of facing the work of the people.
Chris, I always appreciate your ability to give us hope that those elected to service might actually do it. It's good to see you, my friend. Thank you.
You bet.
All right. Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.